Wonderful to be able to come together for the purpose of art during this time, and also to be able to come together and see and touch you all in person. So thank you for your effort and your presence, your physical presence, something that we need. And as human beings. So tonight we're presenting, I'll be talking about this piece a little bit, and Sasha Silvano will be speaking about her work, and then Richard will talk about his work. We'll go to the Buddha room for that. So we'll relocate, and then after the presentations, we'll have some sandwiches and salads, and all individual, so we can hang out and chat and have something to eat. So Survivor's Dreaming was the vision of this particular opening, of this presentation, of this exhibit, and also the opening of this wonderful space in San Francisco that had to close down temporarily, although we kept a nice, lively, virtual Facebook Live presence, and we still probably keep doing that. But so one of the things that over this time, this tumultuous time of loss and confusion and questioning. I can take this off because I'm presenting. Oh, and then you can see my whole face, not just, you can see if I'm like, that's the only thing I did like about the mask, because you could be like, the guys could be like,
So I understand your bad about your father. He lucked out though. He made the right choice. He lucked out. Thank you all for your patience while it was set up, and thank you all for honoring us with your presence, and thank you, Mary, for putting on this, for organizing and directing, producing this incredible gala event. So the first thing I told myself is don't bury the lead. The most important part of journalism is don't bury the lead. So this is Secret Engine of the World, Further Notes on Primal Reality, Gaian Politics, and the Art of Human Evolution. Here's the lead. What is this book about? This book is about 3 deadlines. 2 deadlines for us as a nation, and 1 deadline for us as a species on this planet. The 2 deadlines for us as a nation are 2 years away and 4 years away. Well, when I wrote this book, now they're 1 year away and 3 years away. And then the deadline for the planet, us as a species, was 10 years away. When I wrote this book, now it's just 9 years away. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, without getting into politics, because we don't get into politics here, it's nothing about ideology at all. What I'm talking about in terms of 2022 and 2024, I'm talking about a mental health crisis we're having in this country. And a collective psychosis that is threatening the future of our country, and therefore the future of the world. And also diseases, psychological diseases that have been with us since the inception of our country: racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia. So we're at a crisis point as a people, and what direction we take will be decided in this next 2 to 4 years, 1 to 3 years. And then as a planet, we know about the ecological crisis. Every one of us has touched on it. We know about the 6th great extinction. We know about the climate emergency. We know that what our footprint on the planet has done, has disrupted, and how it threatens so much, including our own species. So, and then really, I started talking about climate change 30 years ago. And I remember saying it was 30 years. I remember saying it was 20 years. I remember saying it's 10 years. And even to say 10 years is kind of a stretch, but there really is a window of 10 years to make a difference. Beyond that, there'll still be life, but we won't have much. Our options will be severely limited. So that is the lead. And then, but there's a third element, and the third element is this book touches on those deadlines, but it explores those deadlines, but it also explores how to live anyway. Like win or lose, and I do look at it as win or lose, and us against them. But like whatever happens, we have to enjoy this, celebrate this time. We have to live this time. We have to take the opportunity of this time to deepen our own inquiry into the nature of our being and our own experience of life, to enjoy life and savor life and celebrate life and do what we can in ourselves, for ourselves and for all those and everything we love. So that's what this book is about. So a friend of mine, people would say to me after my last 2 books, which are like 400 something pages each and came out within 2 years of each other, we'll get into them briefly in a minute. They said, well, are you working on, once it was all done, are you working on something new? Are you working on another book? And I would almost like yell, no! No, that's the last thing that I want to do. But then after answering that question for a while this way, I realized I had to say no. And then I had to take a breath and say, but one is organizing itself. And so I'll go into a little bit of what that means. And it really is that. I did not write this. It organized itself. And what do I mean by that? In 20, and then another, I'll tie 2 things together. And a friend of mine read this book, Secret Engine of the World, and said, it's different from the others. And I said, yes, Rainey. And I said, how would you describe it? She said, well, this is like an epilogue. And I said, yes, it is. It's like an epilogue to these other works. And it is, but it's not the kind of epilogue that you can't read this book if you haven't read the other books. It's the kind of epilogue where you can just read this if you don't read the other books. And then you could use the other books as things to drill down into if you wanted. But if you did only do anything read this book. It's that kind of epilogue. It's what she meant, and it's how I feel about it. And so the way that it's an epilogue, let me get, this is kind of, and I'm doing this because this is like a time capsule, and I do want to record this, so bear with me for a second. Don't be afraid, because there's a pile of books in front of us. I'm not going to read from any of them. But so in 2010, the inner voice of me, it's time to make your move. I've written about this, and it didn't mean writing a book. It meant I had a short list of things I needed to do. One of them was to give a series of 3 talks at this lodge. So I did, and then those 3 talks became 7 more talks, and then there was this book, which was from those talks, which is Between Shadow and Night, the Singularity in Anticipation of Itself. And the Singularity, Anticipation of Itself, 2010. And the idea was, well, at that time there still is a raging debate about, will a singularity arise out of artificial intelligence? And will it kind of, take on a life of its own, and what will be the consequences of all of that? It's a very real discussion. But I would point out in these discussions, the singularity arising that you ought to be more concerned about is the human species, because we are something that hasn't happened, has not happened before on this planet. And we are this strange mix of ignorance and genius that is out of this mesh of enmeshed ignorance and genius that is the human species. A singularity is arising, and we don't know what happens when a singularity arises. So that's the singularity in anticipation of itself, Between Shadow and Night. So then 2012, so that led to more talks, and another process, which I ended up calling epiphanies, because a friend of mine said to me, I said, well, what do you call these? And I thought, I don't know, people would call them poems or prayers. She said, what do you call them? I said, I call them epiphanies, because that's what James Joyce called them. I said, she said, well, just call it epiphanies. So I began to call them epiphanies. But I had decided that I needed to do an un-TED talk. The TED Talks were just starting. I said, I want to do an un-TED talk. I want to talk for 20 minutes. It'll never be part of TED Talk, so I'll call it an un-TED talk. So this book came out of my idea to give an un-TED talk based on the arising of the singularity of the human species. And so I called it You Manifesto, A Guide to Primal Reality in an Era of Global Peril. So I said You Manifesto because I didn't want to say manifesto, because the rising of the ascendancy of the feminine is so vital in any shift that we are to make in terms of human survival. I was originally I wanted to call it Woo Manifesto. I thought that might terrify people, so I just said I'll settle on You Manifesto. So that was the second one. But then out of that arose more talks and more epiphanies, which came out of taking long walks either in the forest or in the city. And by the end of the walk, I would have to literally just write something down that had arrived. And so that became User's Guide to Human Incarnation, the Yoga of Primal Reality. That's the lava flowing on the Big Island. That was in 2013. Then it kept going, and in 2014, more talks, more epiphanies, planetary emergence, personal emergency, the path of an evolutionary. And then we're almost to the end. And then this is the Pacific Ocean in a cave, mist. And then in 2015, Cauldron Yoga, Gaian Poetics, and the Way of the Ancient Future. It's a beautiful statue of Carnegie Mellon University. I think it's of one of the goddesses. So all of a sudden there were 5 books in the course of 5 years that came out of this internal instruction. And so it was at that time I was working at Carnegie Mellon University, which is in Pittsburgh, but my office was, I had a windowless office at NASA Research Park at Moffett Field down 101. And I realized I'd been there 7 years. I could hear the footsteps coming down the hall, the administration, the people that had hired me were all gone. They knew what I have an 8th grade education, but I was a distinguished fellow at Carnegie Mellon University because of things I could do. And I knew the people that were then in charge were not the people who understood what it was that I did. So I left that world, and I put all those 5 books into this book. So you don't have to ever worry about those 5 books again. Words of Power, A New Language for a New Reality, because this was all really the same project, so it just belonged together, so that made sense. Okay, so then, when this was all done, I realized it was time to write a story of my life. I say a story because there are other ways to tell it.
You have time.
I know. Thank you. But
Yeah.
thank you for tracking it.
Yeah.
So I realized it was time to write my a version of my life story, and it was going to be very intense. And so 2 years later, now we're at 20. The Words was 2017. This was 2018. I, the Dragon: Chronicles of an Epic Life Among the Humans. Okay, so that's why when somebody, after all this, 2018, 2019, 2020, when somebody said to me, "Are you working on a new book?" I said, "No." Really, I'm not. But then I had to admit that one was organizing itself. Because what did that mean? Well, there were 15 more epiphanies that didn't have a home. I mean, they were on Instagram somewhere and Facebook somewhere, but they had to be put somewhere. And there were 4 or 5 more talks that I had transcribed that needed a home because this was like 2016, all the upheavals in our country, all the things we're facing in our country, then the pandemic and the worsening of the climate crisis, the burning of the West, the flooding of the South, all of it. So those talks I wanted to have, they belonged somewhere. So I realized that, well, I had to put these things in some book together. So they were already all done. I just had to organize them and produce them, and then the cover announced itself. The cover just said, "Well, this is the cover," and this is I was very fond of it because it's a pre-Raphaelite version of the goddess Lilith. So, looking at herself in a mirror, you can see looking at herself in a mirror on the other side. So, that is the cover of this book, and the title of this book came from one of those 15 epiphanies, and it said, this is the title of the book, and so it organized itself, and it was done. And I've been thinking, I was struck by what Mary shared and what Sasha shared about things, and there was such a resonance because I've been pondering stupas. All through the East, there are the stupas, and it's just like lighting something you see it, and all of a sudden it takes on a different meaning. Stupa, they will build a stupa around the bones of a saint, or they'll build a stupa and they'll stuff it full of scrolls and rattles and drums and bells and ashes and everything holy, and then people will come to circumambulate the stupa, pray in front of the stupa, live around the stupa, pilgrimages to the stupa, concentrations of energy. And everybody everybody, all of us are in our own ways building our own stupas. You know, it might be a body of yoga, profound yoga teachings that you're translating from the 19th century and from the 20th century and from the patriarchy and from the East into a planetary language and a feminine language for the 21st century. It might be somebody whose life journey went from circumambulating Arunachala to playing the great golf courses of the world. It could be somebody who led a life of dance and art and inspiring people through beauty and vision in their work. It could be anything, but all of us really are living is building stupas in which we are leaving relics, imprinting relics, objects of vibration and holiness. And then you know, those 5 books that went into Word are kind of like my pyramid. And stupa, that's the ultimate stupa, the Giza pyramid, like trans-historical stupa, a intergalactic stupa, and interdimensional stupa. That's one of the things that the pyramid is. But I was thinking the word, my book is, the words book is my pyramid, and I started to think of the dragon book as my sphinx that's next to the pyramid, you know, the sphinx that guards the portal, that watches the portal. And then I would just say, well, what is the secret engine of the world? What is this book in relationship to the sphinx and the pyramid of my work? So the secret engine of the world is the map that shows where the inner chamber and the pyramid is, the hidden chambers and the pyramid is. So that kind of clicked for me. And the other thing about the pyramids, I'm thinking about a lot lately in relation to all of this, our lives in this time of tremendous trial and tribulation, really, and also at the same time incredible poignancy of joy of just being alive and even sharing a few moments together, and all the potential that is here. You know, did you ever see the Pyramid Code on Netflix or on YouTube? Is that what it's called? I think it's called the Pyramid Code or the Pyramid Codex. Anyway, it's a series of 5 documentaries about the pyramid. You can find it on Netflix or on YouTube. And they interview his old man. He's gone now, I think, but he was the keeper of the ancient wisdom.
The mystical, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he talked about how this is an oral tradition that he's carried forth. You know, this isn't some woo-woo stuff, you know, colonializer woo-woo stuff. This is indigenous person in Egypt. He's telling you that the oral history of the pyramids. There were 22 pyramids running north to south, parallel to the Nile, and establishing a zone, what they called the band. Thank you. Well, okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit, but that helps. So a band of peace, they called it. And then within that band of peace, one of the pyramids, the Step Pyramid, had 3 chambers in it, through which they were doing healing through sound. And there was another pyramid called the Bent Pyramid, where there were 2 chambers, where they were working with 2 different sounds, with healing and all kinds of power through sound. So what I wanted to bring to you is these concepts and this notion, this feeling of, you know, building your own stupa, even if the meaning that you're putting in your stupa is meaninglessness. You know, an existentialist stupa would have meaninglessness in it, and it would be just it is a profound teaching that Gautama would certainly understand. So it's all meaning, and it's all power, and it's all of it, whether it's music or it's raising children or it's launching an enterprise, whatever it is, we are building stupas. concentrating energy, concentrating meaning. And that the other thing was thinking of those pyramids and working with healing and working with sound to find your voice and to speak your voice. You know, the legendary American sage Joe Miller, who I call my Yoda, you know, he used to tell people, don't pay any attention to what I say, just feel what's radiating out of my heart. And so people would, I would always point out to people, you know, he said that to you. You know, he said that, he used words to communicate to you that you can't find it in words. Because why? So yes, it's flowing out of his heart, but though it's flowing out of his heart and it's formulating words, because word in the beginning was the word. Word is vibration. Sound is vibration. When you do it, when in Harry Potter, when they cast a spell, they're using the power of the word. When we use mantra, we're using the power of the word. So, and we have this. This is the most. Everybody wants to be preoccupied with this. The third eye. We live in a third eye civilization. I've had enough of the third eye, but this is so powerful and under appreciated. The power of one's own voice, to be able to sing a song like that. So, to build your own stupa out of the meaning of your own experience and gifts and challenges and memories and dreams of your own life, and to find your own voice, and you're articulating it in one way, intellectually, psychologically, whatever, but you're also, it's coming out of you as Shakti, as your meaning, as what you are in depth. So, with that, we will close with one short reading from Secret Engine of the World. That's what I meant about, you know, it's about three deadlines, 2022, 2024, and 10 years from now, so 2031. But it's also about what to do no matter what happens, what to do with our time. So, I'll just read you this one thing that's very short, and I will probably have gone over 7 minutes, is my prediction, maybe more. I tried. Yeah. It's also my shortest book, so I'm very happy about them, the big three. What are you called? What are you called? Bruja, Baal, Bodhisattva, Tantrika, Agori, Troubadour, Dakini, Bhakta, Kurandara, Yogini, Wizard, Sorceress. These are all just cover stories. Your true designation is beyond human speech. Authentic, mystical love, real love is the secret engine of the world. But this authentic, mystical love, this real love, does not act like fire or water. It does not incinerate or drown that which it encounters. Authentic, mystical love, real love, moves like a vast glacier. Whatever it does not crush or bury, it pushes forward. Yes, this love glacier levels mountains and forges canyons. It breaks the unbreakable and reshapes the earth. The love glacier is so massive that it takes a lifetime just to glimpse it. And even then it can only be seen as far as the horizon. It moves so slowly, it is almost undetectable. So it takes a lifetime to measure its grinding progress. Authentic, mystical love does not act like fire or water. It does not incinerate or drown that which it encounters. This love moves like a vast glacier. Whatever it does not crush or bury, it pushes forward. This is the secret engine of the world. How utterly empty and free you must be to revel in the movement of this glacier, knowing that all you have ever had or wanted will be torn up and ground under, and that in the glacier's aftermath there will only be a long, fathomless silence in which you will be no more than a shadow of a raven on the white stillness of the deep snow. So, you've been very patient. I want to encourage, if we can do something together with sound just really quickly. Gadi Gadi Para Gadi Parasam Gadi Bodhi Swaha. This is from Gautama, Buddha, who was not a Buddhist, the person. But he, Gadi Gadi Para Gadi Parasam Gadi Bodhi Swaha, typically you'll see it translated as gone, gone, gone far beyond the other shore to enlightenment. But I always think of it as gone, gone far beyond the other shore. Here we are. So Gadi Gadi Para Gadi Parasam Gadi Bodhi Swaha, and then we go Om above the crown, and Ah at the throat, and Hum in the heart. And then, as Joe Miller would always say, and then we give a loud and vulgar Ha. We yell out, we spell Ha like that. So we'll do it 3 times together. Gate, gate, para, gate, parsam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parsam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parsam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Big breath.
Woo! Hold on to your hat.